evening. How's everyone doing tonight? I can't help but notice that this is probably the best dressed college class I've ever been to. I had an opportunity to teach for several years at a local university, and I can tell you the kids did not dress quite as nice as you guys did. So I think it's an appropriate, given the topic tonight. You know, whenever I have an opportunity to speak in front of a class like this, I think of two things. The first thing I think about is, well, what would I want to know when I was in your seat that I know today after 20 years of being out of school and learning things the hard way? And the second thing I ask myself is, what do I know that's relevant, that would be relevant to where you are? And I know there's probably a lot of juniors and seniors, and you're thinking about, graduation down the road, and, am I going to be able to get a job, and all that comes with that. And when I had the opportunity to talk about coming here to speak today, I was actually in the process of interviewing interns. And what I always notice when I interview is I see all kinds of resumes that I would say are less than stellar. And it's so really surprising because I talked to a lot of different universities. And I know that the universities do a fairly good job of taking kids through the resume process. So I'm a little surprised at sometimes the resumes I get. And also when I get an opportunity to interview some students, I'm a little surprised at the lack of interview skills. And I know the university spend quite a bit of time on that as well. So the topic I chose today is secrets to navigating the interview process. Some of the things we're going to talk about today are things that you've heard, but it won't hurt to hear it again. But I'm going to promise you, I'm going to tell you some things you probably haven't heard before. And at the end of this, I'm going to give you some resources. And if the only thing you do is listen to this conversation for 40 minutes and you walk out, you've shortchanged yourself. If you don't take advantage of these resources I'm giving you, I promise you, if you will do some homework and take advantage of a couple of resources I've given you and apply yourself, you will have an advantage over the other students who are interviewing for jobs. And make no mistake about it, look around. That's your competition for jobs. So, all right. What am I doing wrong here? Oh, turn it on. All right. All right, so what I hope to do today is give you an inside look into what employers want, okay? And there's two things I want to focus on. The first is how to differentiate your resume from the rest in order to get the opportunity to interview. Your resume has to look different. How long do you think, if you send me a resume, I'm going to look at your resume before I make a decision to put you in the yes pile, the no pile, or the maybe pile? 5 seconds is what the average is. I usually will give someone 20 seconds. If I can't get to the first third of your resume and see something that interests me, all right, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but I really could care less that you work Walmart and a cashier and you list 4 duties of a cashier. I could care less about that. You just didn't tell me anything. You got to tell me something that says, I want to talk with you. I got to know something about you, not the job you had. Tell me something about you, okay? And we're going to talk a little bit about some strategies to do that. The second thing is understanding what employers want. So I know a lot of colleges, universities do a pretty good job of showing you how to answer the rote questions, right? Tell me about yourself. What's your biggest weakness? What's your biggest strength? All those standard questions. If you interview with me, you'll never see any of those questions. I promise you. What I really want to know when I interview you is what makes you tick, who you are, all right? Because that's what I'm getting. Skills I can teach. I can't teach, are you a person who's going to show up for work every day? Or, are you going to work well with your teammates? That's something I can't teach. That's who you are, or that's not who you are, okay? And so what we're going to talk about today is understanding conceptually how to present yourself in the best possible manner. So let's talk about what this presentation is and isn't, because this is going to be a little bit different than maybe what you've heard before. So I'm not going to teach you how to dress. Most of you look pretty nice. Already got that part. Someone's taught you that. Not going to teach you how to answer specific interview questions. I think the universities do a pretty good job of, the top 100 questions you might get asked. I'm not going to teach you how to research and prepare in advance of the interview. Although I've had students show up for an interview, and I've asked, tell me what you know about EPB, and I get, you sell electricity? You know what my strategy is from that point forward? How quickly can I get through the interview and close it without being so obvious that they just blew any chance of having a job? All right? So don't overlook that. I mean, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it, but it does happen where people just don't do their homework, okay? What I want to do today is teach you how to increase your chances of being selected to interview. You can't get a job if you don't get selected for the interview, and that starts with a resume. And then how to think your way through the process once you land an interview to increase your opportunity to get that job. So when you're in an interview situation, there are no random questions. When you walk in the door and you greet the receptionist, you better believe we're going to talk to the receptionist and see how you treated the receptionist. You know why? Why would I want to know how you treated the receptionist who has nothing to do with the job? Possibly, but I got better reasons than that. Anybody else? See your true character. I'm going to see, you'll be nice to me. I might be offering you a job. You're going to be nice to me, right? So anybody can be who they are for an hour. I want to see who you are when you're not putting forth your best foot, right? So you might let your guard down and maybe you're a little rude to the receptionist or something. If you're rude to the receptionist during an interview, guess what? You'll be rude. You'll be rude to fellow coworkers. It'll come out. So let's think about the whole interview process and understand that there's not an idle question being asked. Everything you do is being evaluated, okay? Now, that shouldn't make you self-conscious. Just be who you are. Because part of what we're going to talk about today, too, is fit. I just finished interviewing for 3 intern positions at EPB that we filled in the last several months. And I probably had 5 or 6 students that I could have hired. I disqualified 2 or 3 that could have done a great job. But the EPB was not the right place for them. They're going to make someone a good employee, but EPB was not the right place for them. We would have been happy with them. They would not have been happy with us. The work environment, the pay, that's just not what they were looking for. Okay, so when you're going for an interview, it's also very important for you to think about interviewing us so you can decide if it's a good fit. I know where you're sitting. It's like, I just want a job. I've been in school for 4 years, 5 years. I got a degree. I just want a job. But trust me, if you have a job that you don't like and you're miserable at because the culture doesn't fit you, you'll wish you were anywhere else. So the 3 main topics we're going to talk about is networking, your resume, and an interview. That's a full water. Okay, so networking often gets overlooked, but networking is important because that's how you create opportunities. I've actually had 1 interview since I've been out of school. I interviewed when I was in college. I went to work for Arthur Anderson, was there for 8 years. I don't know how much you guys are a little bit past the time when Anderson had its troubles, but Anderson kind of went under, sinking ship, and we transitioned our office to NY. And then from there, I went to go work for a client, and the interview consisted of me finding out that they were going to hire a global controller because they had made some international acquisitions. I picked up the phone, called him, said, hey, you know what, I'm probably going to leave public. And he goes, really? He says, how much you want and when can you start? All right? The reason that interview went that way is because of the networking. I'd spent time with him. We knew each other. And then a very similar situation when I came to work for EPB. So even though I've had interviews, there were really more formalities on both sides, me interviewing them and just to see what the fit were. And all that's because of networking. All right, you'll find that a lot of those jobs are sometimes not even posted in the paper or anywhere else. You find out about it through networks. So begin as early as possible. How many of you are juniors or seniors? Okay. How many of you already begun networking? I'm asking this question a different way. How many of you begin networking and you have a stated purpose and plan? You're just not doing the things that's kind of as a university offers something, you show up, but you've really got a plan how you're networking. Yeah, a lot fewer of you. That's right. You really should have a plan to network. Okay. I got a friend of mine who's actually a Southern, went to Southern, and he's got a great presentation that deals with some of the issues I'm not doing, as well, how to dress and prepare and all that. And he has a great slide up there. He talks about how much money the average college graduate can make over the course of a year, and it's like millions. Okay, so the question I have for you: if you won't prepare for an interview that could potentially lead to a high-paying job down the road, what will you prepare for? Networking is part of getting ready for your job. Interviewing for a job does not start when you're a senior and you think, oh, man, I graduate in May and I don't have a job, and my parents are going to cut me off once I graduate. That's not when it starts. You need to have a plan, so you begin early as possible. Don't underestimate the power of connections. I really learned this lesson. I might have been out of school about maybe 7 years. And Anderson, when you're familiar with the Enron whole thing, well, I was riding that ship all the way down when Anderson was in all that difficulty. And it was a very difficult situation because, we didn't have anything to do with what went on. And we had I was a manager, an audit manager at the time, and we had, some of our staff going, hey, what do I do? And we're trying to tell them, get your resume out there, but try to stay put so we're trying to do something. And so we were trying to sell the practice, but if you don't have people and you don't have clients, that kind of gets hard. So you're trying to hold this together long enough to sell things. And I'm trying to keep my options open as well because I have no guarantee that this is going to work, that we're not going to all find ourselves out of a job one day. So even though I'm hoping we can sell the firm over to EY, there was no guarantee that was going to happen. So I start calling up people that I had worked with and done work for at Anderson. I call up a kind of a venture capital guy. He was kind of an entrepreneur guy, and that I had helped him with a business plan 2 or 3 years before. And I hadn't really spoken with him, but casually, maybe over the 2 or 3 years. And I was like, I don't know if I really should call him or not. I haven't really talked to him in a